In this lesson, we're going to learn how to create a column graph using data that we have in our reference files. Okay, so the column graph we're going to be creating is going to go right in this area here. So I'm going to go ahead and start out. We'll just come down here to our graph tool. It's going to be that first one at the top, column graph tool. Then I'm just going to start right about here, and we'll drag this down just kind of right here to the middle of this space. I'm kind of just aligning this with the bottom of this piece. And let's go ahead and import our data. So we'll just come to that button right there, click that, and we're just right here inside of our project file. So let's come over here to Documents, Conservation Assistance. That's the one that we're going to be using for this. Okay, so go ahead and hit Open for that. And that's just going to import your data right there. Now let's just go ahead and see what this does with the data set up as it is. So not too bad. We have a nice little legend over here, and our data looks the way I want it to. So I've got my words down here just talking about where that conservation assistance was applied to, and this is the amount over here. We don't have a dollar sign in front of that. That would kind of mess up what we are creating here. One thing you can notice is that this is causing a little bit of overlap. If you wanted this to be on two columns, or excuse me, if you want this to be entered down onto the next line so that you have two lines, you can come over here, and where you see, these two words, right in between there, we can put a vertical bar. So to type that, you'll just hold Shift and hit the backslash key, which is going to be on most keyboards right underneath the backspace key. And then you can just go ahead and hit the check mark, and you can see that updated down there. But I think that this really doesn't look as great as it could, and since we have two USVI labels here and two Florida labels, instead of labeling more specifically Oahu, Hawaii, I'm just going to put Hawaii. So we'll just come back in up here and delete that first part, and that also means we won't need those quotation marks since we're not having that comma anymore. Okay, so let's go ahead and add a few other things here. I'm pretty much happy with the way the data looks, so I'm going to X out of that. And I want to come in here and kind of customize the way these bars look. So I want to kind of create a little dollar sign just representing how much money was given. We see the numbers over here, but use kind of a little dollar sign, maybe something that looks like a coin, to create this bar. So I'm going to come over here to the side, and I'm just going to create a small circle, just kind of like that. And let's zoom in on this a little bit more closely. And we'll grab our text tool, and let's type a dollar sign. And let's go ahead and set that so it's a little more bold. So we'll turn that to extra black, just like that. And instead of leaving this as a typeface that we can edit, I want to just go ahead and change this to outlines. It's going to make it easier for me to get this right in the center of the circle. So I'll go ahead and right click, create outlines. We'll scale this up a little bit, and then just place that right in the middle. Now let's go ahead and use our align panel to get that right in the center. So I'm just going to do a horizontal align center and a vertical align center. And then I'll select that piece, and let's go ahead and change this to white, and we'll give this black that same navy blue we've been using. So maybe scale that up a little bit better. I'm just holding Shift and Alt to scale that from the center. Okay, so this is going to be the symbol that I'm going to use to represent my federal funding column. So you can see kind of over here in the legend that it created, we have a federal funding and a matching funding. And this is all messed up over here, the way that it's overlapping. So we can fix that here in a minute. Okay, so I'm just going to duplicate this and drag it over. And now I'm going to change that background color to the yellow. So this will be our matching funding, and this will be our federal funding. But to get that to work, we need to set those up as a design. So what we're going to do is group those together. Just select it, hit Control G. And we'll do this for our other one as well, Control G. So now those have both been grouped just with the dollar sign and the shape behind it. And now I'll select the whole piece here just for the federal one. We're going to go up to Object, come down to Graph, and choose Design. And that's going to open this up for me. Okay, so to create this as our design, all we have to do is click the New Design button, and that's going to add that just with that default name, New Design. So then we can go in there and rename this, and we'll call this Federal for the blue one. Go ahead and say OK. Hit OK on that. Then we'll do the same thing for our yellow piece. So select everything, go to Object, Graph, Design, New Design. Then we'll rename this one to Matching. Okay. Go ahead and say OK to that. And now those two pieces have been set up as a design. You don't even have to leave them there if you don't want to. You could just delete them. Now we want to go ahead and set this up so that those circles are being represented here in our column. So we're going to again use our group selection tool. So go ahead and choose that tool, and we'll click twice inside of the Federal part of our legend here. Then we'll go up to Object, go to Graph, and choose Column. And now we have some choices that we've added here for Federal and Matching. We chose the Federal first, so go ahead and click the Federal, and that's going to give us that Federal design. Now we need to choose a few options down here. So I don't want to scale this. I want those little circles to stay the same shape that they were when I created them. So I'm going to come down here and say repeating. So basically every time one of these circles is finished, we'll repeat that. And then we need to decide how many of these circles make up a unit. So if we had something, some huge number, we might have just one huge circle here. So I want them to be about the same size as the columns are now. So really you could probably fit one, maybe two of those circles in from here to here. So if this is starting at 20,000, I could probably say that we could mark that at 10,000. So each unit would be about 10,000. That's going to be about that big. So let's go ahead and type 10,000 in right there. And then for fractions, let's say, this goes a little bit more than 10,000. We need just a piece of it. I'm going to say to chop the design because I don't want it to be scaled. That's really not going to look very good. So we'll go ahead and say OK to that. And now all of those pieces have been added here, and we have our little dollar sign. So that looks pretty good. This one's given us a little bit of trouble. We'll come over here and fix that in a moment. So let's go ahead and just set up our matching one now. So I'll go ahead and click over here with my group selection tool twice. Then we'll go to Object, Graph, Column, and we'll choose Matching this time. And then we'll just set these up the same way. So we'll do repeating, 10,000 units, chop design, OK. And now we have this as well. So we pretty much have this set up the way that I want it to be at this point, except it's a little bit too big. As you can see, it's kind of coming over here a little bit too far. We do have this aligned on the side nicely, but really it's just a little bit too big. So I want to scale it down, but you'll notice that when I have it selected, I can't scale it. So I can come over here and grab my scale tool. It's going to be right there. And if I click and then hold Shift and start to drag it down, it's going to scale it proportionately. Now, if I am not holding Shift, some weird things can start to happen. So just kind of drag it slowly down until it gets to be about the size that you're happy with. Then we can just kind of reposition this over here. And I also need some room here at the top for my labels of what this graph is talking about. And now I want to just come over here and fix these. So I'm going to ungroup that. So we'll just hit Control-Shift-G to ungroup. Say yes. And you can't edit this graph anymore if you want to. So you would have to just be careful not to mess with that. So we'll undo this part as well. It looks like this part got a little bit messed up in that change. And I'll just go ahead and we'll scoot the number part over just like this. So I'm just kind of bringing these over here like that. So now that fits just a little bit better. And these pieces over here, I'm going to ungroup those so I can get to one at a time. Then we'll just turn those upright. So I'm just selecting that, turning that, holding Shift. And it looks like I was only turning the circle, so I'll go ahead and select the whole thing We'll turn that. And this one as well. Make sure that those are grouped if they got ungrouped, just so you're not accidentally turning the circle over and over. Then we'll select this and we'll hold Shift and Alt to scale that down a little bit just to make it smaller. Maybe kind of move that up a bit. And I feel like these pieces of text would actually look better as a legend kind of stacked down here. So we have this nice little area here. We should just use that. So what I'm going to do is I'll just pop that up there a little bit, and then we'll add some more leading to that. Looks like that doesn't want to let me use leading for that kind of text. So we'll just ungroup it. It looks like instead of it being on 2 lines, it was just 2 pieces of text grouped together. We can still work with that. I'm just going to line that up on that baseline with the rest of my text. And let's go ahead and select both of those. Come up here to our Align panel. Make sure we're aligning to our selection. And we'll choose a horizontal align center. So that's just going to help to kind of scoot those over. And then we'll do the same thing for our federal funding and matching funding, just kind of bringing them back in here. So that's kind of obvious which one goes with which. And if you want to, you could do another align center just to kind of fix that up a little bit better. And then just go ahead and group those respective pieces. Okay, so this is looking pretty good. Now all I want to do is add my text for this label of this graph. And the text for that is going to be right over here in that Word document. So we have our what is being done to stop the destruction label right there. And then we've got this domestic coral reef conservation grants and a little bit of text about that. So I'll go ahead and copy that. And this piece of text here is just what we used on this side. So you can tell that you're in the right place by looking at that. Let's hit Control V to paste that in here. And let's bring this over here to the side and just kind of start to set this up. So I'm going to leave this as PFDIN. So we'll go ahead and maybe just make it a little bit bigger. Maybe not quite that big. Maybe take it down to about 17 or so. And then let's not have this be extra black. Let's turn that down to medium. Maybe even a regular, just like that. And then this piece here, I want to be my same Garamond that I've been using, like what we had up here. So I'll just go ahead and we'll eyedrop that. And you can see that fixed that text. Now an easy way to get this to come in without having to break it is just to select everything. We'll hit Control X, and then I'm just going to grab my type tool and we'll just draw a little box down here. And then we'll paste that in. And then we can just kind of adjust that the way that we want it to look so that it can still fit in this area here. And I'll pull that over a bit there on the side. And this is looking pretty good. I really like the way that that feels. Let's go ahead and maybe change those to that same blue color just so they're not the default black. Go ahead and change that. And everything is looking good. I'm really happy with the way that this feels. If you wanted to, maybe you could come in here and regroup this whole graph together and then maybe just bring it up a little bit so that it is going to be sitting on this same kind of line that we have here for stricter. And the reason why I'm doing it this way is just because I know I'm going to be adding something down here a little bit later. So I want to have as much room as I can. And we could come in here, push this up a little bit just so that fits a little bit better. Maybe even extend that out to the edge of that piece right there. We could track this out a little bit just so that feels like it still goes together, just kind of to that edge. So that gives us a little bit more breathing room just right in between there. So this is looking really good. I'm really happy with the way that that graph looks, and we're actually finished now with creating our graph. So now we're going to start doing some really fun things. We're going to place some images and then just some text that goes along with those images, and then we'll be able to start creating and placing illustrations. So stick around and we're going to talk about what images we'll be using in our next lesson.